Mr. James Scarlett. Happy anniversary, sir.
Thank you very much, mate. Happy anniversary to you.
They said we could never do it, but they were wrong. They were
I said
fucking
I
wrong.
said we could never do it. One
Mate,
year.
1 year. I mean, so it'll be February the 27th, I think this comes out. We're recording the Saturday before. This is proper, like pre-planned for us. I mean, Bry's not gonna know what to do his week when we give him it like Monday morning. He's got 3 days to work with the podcast rather than 3 hours. But aye, so this is the Saturday before. You'll get this on the 27th. Our first podcast was dropped on the 29th of February last year, but it would probably have been about this date last year when we were first sitting down to do those three podcasts we've done in a row, which was the Dillinger Escape Gamble, the Bollica Billing, and the Slayer marketing plan. It's been a wild year.
Mate, it really has. It really has. This feels like there was all that like episode 52 stuff, but for me, to hit the year, I mean, we've cheated a bit and got ourselves two anniversaries, haven't we? We had an episode 52 anniversary and now the actual year, but yeah, it feels pretty cool. I feel vaguely proud of ourselves. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, the episode 52 came about because we assumed it would be 52 weeks. So it was a number of get to 52. And at the start, I feel like we had to have something to aim for. But I mean, it was a flip of the coin. I mean, I never made it to 52 episodes with Damnation Versus. I think I made it to 36. I tried the Damnation versus Bloodstock pod with Vicky, and I think we made it to 4, maybe 5. So it was a bit like when we started this one, it was like, oh, I mean, no, I didn't know you that well. I knew you as a mate in a field. Our happiest fucking moments. You know what I mean? Like you're in a bar and you're drunk and you're watching your favourite music, so you get the best version of that person in their happy place. I didn't know you when you're having a shit week at work or shit was going on with your wife and kid or you had holidays to work around. So I went into that like I'm hoping he's good to his word, but ultimately, I don't fucking know. I mean, the first time there's going to be a minor inconvenience, and let's be fair, there's been lots of minor inconveniences across the year that we've managed to work through. You might have just went, "Oh fuck this, it's not worth it."
No, and they say like don't work with your friends or you never really know people until you work together and all of that I think is kind of like vaguely true. I mean, I surround myself with my friends in my all my work things. And this, weirdly, when you first pitched it to me, didn't really seem like it was necessarily work, right? It was some sort of add-on to our work, but not really. We didn't need to take it that seriously. Just go on for 35 minutes a week and have a bit of banter. And then next thing you know, like now we're like planning tours and talking to sponsors and like lots of stuff behind the scenes. We
Bank
talk
accounts are
fucking
set up now,
yeah,
and
yeah, there's a
it's like
fucking bank account. Like most days of the week, we're having to chat about one thing or another. So it's a good job it's worked because
yeah.
it's quite a lot, isn't it? It's like a lot going on.
I feel we launched it that far too quickly without recognising my t-shirt. I mean, come on, this is only going to work for those on YouTube, but look at this peach. I mean, I know some people have bought that, but Bri, you absolutely knocked it at the park with that, mate.
Yeah, yeah. For those not watching on YouTube, Gabba's gone full Steve Harris Iron Maiden and is wearing his own merch. But
The
he's looking good in it.
the
Looking good.
Tintin one, we go again, me's Tintin, which I'm still not fully over, and then James obviously captain. I just gonna get dragged into that joke and then left as a wee ginger fucking Belgian. So I took it in the chin. I took it in the chin. No, but you're totally right, mate. We did do episode 52. We did have a wee bit of a look back and what was our favourite stuff and that. So we can't do that again. We don't want to do that again. This is more of a marker that is the first anniversary. And then the next milestone will be, I suppose, year 2 if we make it to the second birthday. So before we begin, we asked you guys, fire everything. This is a free for all one. This isn't it's not Q and A as such, but it's also not. We're not going to into any given topic. We will get into some geeky stuff you've asked about. We'll get into some random stuff we've asked about. We'll get into the ranked albums that you've asked about. So we're going to go with the flow with as much alcohol as we can get into this before we need a pee break, and then we'll come back and do it again. So, aye, kicking us off though, before we get into what people have asked, I did want to flag up that one of the great things about the whole fucking podcast, the people who listen to it, you don't really know it. Mike Vennert is Mike Vennert of Biffy Clyro and obviously Mike Vennert of Mike Vennert. He sent me
And
a
fucking
message.
mate, don't forget ocean size in this.
Well, he's going to come onto the pod as a guest over the course of next year, I'd imagine. And the main reason he wants to come onto the pod has been a fan of and listener. He wants to just nail this fucking ocean-sized conversation for once and for all. Why it's not happening, and just get that off. I take it gets asked 10 times a day, and he's like, "No, fuck this. I'm just going to go on the record. This is exactly what the situation is, and until that changes, nothing's going to change." So that's
Mate,
pretty
you're
cool.
telling me this for the first time on live on air. What the fuck? This is amazing.
But the reason he got in touch is he said, it was just a message. He goes, "We're bored of listening to your pish." Right? So my rant for last week goes, I actually stopped it, rewound it, and listened to it again. You fucking Mike Venner listening to Gav booting off ×2. So
Wow.
that was fucking pretty class. And talk about bored of listening to pish, James. That fucking Mannix tune, what the fuck was that?
You're not feeling it.
I feel like the tide is turning against you, mate. I feel like you've used up all your good tokens on your Iotins and Sonatas, and now people are seeing you for what you really are, mate.
I saw even some Mannix fans basically saying, nah, I used to like the Mannix, but no. Honestly, well, we're all allowed to like different things. I'm telling you, it's a fucking banger though. You're missing out.
Yeah, okay. So are we getting in it? We get into it.
Let's do it. So sometimes when we have stuff from the audience, I'm a bit like unsure about how it's going to go, but this list of stuff is fucking great, right? This is going to be a good chat. This covers all our different little different quirks of the podcast. And we're starting off. Lisa Gonzalez was asking us if we had a Two Promoters One Pod birthday wish.
Okay. I thought about this, and I'm going to go into my usual sort of, I don't know, fucking self-depreciating, humble bragging. I don't know, never confident enough just to say what you actually feel. So this is it. Cards on the fucking table. I want, for the birthday wish, if it's something I don't even think is that possible, I want genuine success for this podcast. That's what I want. I want this podcast to no longer be a marketing tool just for the festivals. I want it to stand on its own 2 feet. And for that to happen for every single listener who's now tuned into 61 episodes and been with us, nobody person that just nips in and out and enjoys a wee bit. Someone who's with us every single Thursday, I would love you guys to subscribe, basically, and send us on a fucking rocket ship to the moon. If I'm birthday wishing, I'm allowed to just go all out there. That's what I want. At the minute, we have 60 folk who subscribe on Patreon. I think about similar a number on Ko-fi. Fantastic. I genuinely appreciate that. It's nice to get that. But if you had, for 10,000 listeners, if you had 1,000, it would be, a serious investment. We would have marketing budget. We could get somebody, we could probably hire somebody to come and do TikTok for us and reels and just the stuff that we don't have any time in our lives to do. And then, you got 1,500 to 2,000 people to subscribe to this podcast. It would be a career. It would be a money-making career. For the three of us. So that's my birthday wish. And in a year's time, when we have this conversation, have a listener that goes, "Do you know the two guys that do the Two Promoters One Pod? They've also got festivals." That's it. That's my fucking birthday wish. That the pod becomes its own standalone entertainment podcast with better equipment and better audio and better fucking visual and maybe studio time. Who the fuck knows if you had that number of people going? So I went big, James. I went big.
Good. I like it. Well, mine's not that dissimilar to that in that when I look back, sometimes when we're talking about trees or ATG amongst ourselves, like the other organisers, like Simon might say to me, "Oh, fucking hell, see Kendall Corlin just sold out of 25,000 tickets in 2 months. Why can't we do that?" And I'm always like, mate, we chose our thing, and our thing was to be a niche, right? We chose our lane. If you wanted to book fucking Rihanna and fucking Shed 7, then you could have done that, but you didn't. You wanted to book Don Broco and Meshuggah, and basically that sort of restricts you. So therefore, what you define by success shouldn't be compared to festivals that are more commercial. And I feel like the podcast in some way is like developed in that sense, in that we have we've chosen a niche, and the niche isn't festivals. The niche is the fact that we quite commercially talk about festivals, but we go niche on the music, right? So me and you talk a lot about music. And so my kind of wish is that I can stay true to what the podcast is and get more successful. which I
Yeah.
think is a challenge because we don't really make any concessions to being more commercial. We don't think fucking hell most of the people, these new listeners, won't have heard of Bosk, or they don't really understand what damnation or arctangent is, or whatever. We just like, let's just talk about what we want to talk about. And getting bigger without having to sell out would be fucking cool. And like, I want to do bigger live shows and have more people listening. I just like every week. I mean, I don't know about you, but I refresh our listener data about 7 times a day. And on a Thursday when the pod comes out,
70.
yeah, just fucking all day, just refreshing
And
the
you know that
numbers.
Bry's doing the same. There's like 210 refreshes that us each day. I wonder if there's another 6 listeners. No, I'm, no, continue. Sorry, I'm looking at it.
No, yeah, just I love the idea of growing it. In a year, it's totally transformed my way of the way I think about it. It's just a different thing now. It's a different beast. Um, and yeah, so let's fucking grow it. And also the Mars Volta to play Arctangent next year. I want 2 wishes.
Yeah, that's it. That's English. Are you right? I mean, the figures. It's a cost and a blessing in the sense of when we first started that initial day was just. It was more than I think I said at the time. It blew everything that Damnation University's done in 2 or 3 years out of the water in day one. So we started with such a core audience, and it has grown gradually. But I suppose what's great about the way that is every single podcast is so consistent. Like I think in our hearts, we want to see one of these ones that just go like boom, and 25,000 listeners, something completely fucking way out with our bubble. Instead, we've just continued to continually hit, which there's something about that. It's also reassuring that you can maybe have a wee bit more freedom to come on and chat about, I know, call a fucking episode 52 and still get the same amount of listeners. It doesn't need, you don't, there's no clickbaiting the listeners and you're going, oh, we're going to tell you a secret about fucking sleep token. So you hopefully get the sleep token army coming. So I get what you're saying. And I suppose with no putting any of this behind the paywall, but even if you can't afford a few quid a month, the way you could help us is just tell your pals. That's the word of mouth. If we get a big budget for this, we will spend it. We've never done any marketing. We've never done any advertising. We could spend some of that if there was money there to spend. But if there's no money to
Yeah.
spend, you could do that work for us. You could go to the pub and tell your mates, did you hear the podcast last week when they discussed X, Y, and Z? And then we go for there. So, yes, thanks, Lisa, for starting us off. Lisa, Liza, Lisa, for starting us off a nice positive one. Alex, my good friend Alex from Scotland, who's weighing up whether he should come to the Glasgow show or no. Very, very, very good friend there, Alex. Thanks for your support, mate. he'd like to know what the top 3 episodes were from us, because everyone loves the list.
Well, I was looking back, and let's be honest, right? Because we do one a week or sometimes more. They do kind of blur for a bit. So I went and looked back today at the list of what we've done, and I the weird thing is I don't enjoy doing the technical episodes because they take a lot of prep, and also I've always got this sense in my head of like if you don't blag the technical episodes because there's someone listening that you're talking about the job they do. So they will fucking know and they'll probably call you out on Facebook. So if you're going to tell people about riders or versus deals, you better make sure you actually know what you're saying is true. And that feels quite stressful and it's a lot more time consuming. So whenever we're thinking about doing one, I'm just like, ugh. But but really the best episodes we've done are the technical ones, I think. So the traders one the other day was far better than I could ever have imagined. The riders one was good. The exact cost of our festivals. I'd really like to do a second version of that because we didn't even scratch the surface of what I could talk about on costs at festivals. So yeah, I feel like it's those ones are
Okay.
the best. And
And
and and I don't enjoy doing the interviews at all because I don't know what I'm fucking doing. Talked about this before. You're a journalist. You're really good at interviewing people. I'm like just fucking floundering about, being like, my turn. Let me talk, please.
to be fair, I feel like you've got much better at them. And so, aye, good. Now, Alex, I asked him to. I'm the same as yourself. It's difficult to separate them. There's there's ones that at the time, there's so many of them I do. Honestly, I don't know if it's just a fucking, it's another curse, but I feel like it's, to get to the end of it and we hit to stop recording. I'm like, that'll be as interesting as listening to your old granny telling you your fucking gravy recipe. I mean, like, as we're doing it, I'm like, why would anyone listen to us talking like this? Is utter fucking drivel. And then I listened to it back, and it was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty fun. But at the time, like, I'm so tuned into the fact that we're recording that you don't get the same sense to enjoy it. And the festival food one was a perfect example of that. I thought the festival food one was terrible, right? Not there was a section in the middle where you were talking about watermelons and ketchup, which was 5-star gold classic, but it was other bits I was just like, my we're actually we're explaining to people like the meterage that we give and where power goes in pat testing. Who in the world wants to hear about pat testing on festival sites? It's like the dullest conversation that could ever be had by man. And then I listened back, right, and it was a bit that section where you're doing the watermelons and the ketchup and the deliveries and getting through the fields and vans, right? It was the first and only time in 61 episodes now when I was listening, I was a listener. I was completely taken from the podcast, taken for this seat with this mic in front of me, and I was listening to stories I'd never heard told before and context I didn't know about. I didn't know anything about any of this stuff, and I was like, I could see why this podcast is fun to listen to because for everything else, for the other 99%, even the stories that I don't really know about, what you've done this way, Pylon, or that's been with Swans, or I'm kind of like, I'd do that myself. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter the band name. I've done all that stuff myself. That was something like, I had no idea that fucking rolls were getting ordered in and you were getting a HGV at the gates. And that, it was like, I totally get it. So Alex said that the festival food was one of his favourites as well. And the feedback for that episode was very positive, despite the fact that we had to call. I was like, that's a fucking nonsense. That is utterly nonsense, that podcast. we have pushed it as far as it can go when we're talking about pat testing fucking electricity points. But there you go. We haven't pushed it far enough.
No, and it's definitely re-energized me. I've got a list of things in that vein that we could talk about, like staffing a festival, for instance,
We will.
which I think would be interesting to people.
The 5 most downloaded we've got, this doesn't make them anyone's best, but the 5 most downloaded we've had is the exact cost of festivals, riders, the agent strikes back, the Dillinger escape plan, and dissect and download with Cam Hack. My top 3 are, when I went back and I tried to tune in, I tried to think about what we're doing with them, is I think the Bollica Billing set us up so well on the first day because it was that we were trying to find out what it is we were trying to do. And we had an episode about Dillinger, which was okay, but it wasn't really pulling the curtain back that much. Bollica Billing pulled the curtain back to no one looks at a poster the same way now, or that ever have since February last year, and then the Slayer one, which was a bit patchy. But that one, I think, caught everyone's attention. Like, these guys are talking about, well, logos going posters, and agents actually have, I mean, who would care? And I think that hooks so many listeners on day one, and it's always stuck with me that. And then I think the Dark Arts of Booking, which is my second favourite one, is where we took it a step further, and we were a bit more confident with the Q&A bits at that point. We were a bit more confident with what we're trying to do. And then I just remember having been the most relaxed and having the most fun, and then actually hitting record and saying I thought it was a cracker was episode 52. So those are the 3 that I would say were my favourite, Alex. And if you haven't checked those ones out yet, go and check them out.
Yeah, episode 52 is a good chat. So that was a fun one to do. Because that came out on Boxing Day, didn't it? We recorded that in the run up to Christmas, so we were in good spirits, and yeah. Yeah, it's good. Okay, Martin Rogers had a more serious topic for us to cover, and he was talking about, like, because obviously we're really open and honest in our approach to the sort of industry, and he was asking as a whole whether it'd have like a negative impact on our work, or is it 100% positive? How do we feel about that?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you've got to say about it.
Well, if I was going to find something negative, the only thing would be is that I'm so busy that the only way at this time of year, the only way I can work is that whatever is the most urgent and important job at any given time is what I'm going to do. So, and I would say now for about 9 months of the year, that's kind of how I feel. There might be maybe in October, say, I'm like, really the only thing I need to do now is book bands, everything else. Whereas at the moment, I'm like in multitasking hell. So, and the reason the podcast would be negative in that regard is because I do a job where it happens once a year, and you can always just about be like, we'll do it tomorrow. but the podcast is like we've locked ourselves into weekly, so you can't. So, this week was half term, um, school half term. So I was actually off work, and we've recorded two podcasts in that week, which I would say really is probably about between the two about 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours of time, right? No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not really casting it as a negative thing, but it's definitely I have to pump it up there are days where I'm like, I've got to book those headliners today. And I'm like, no, we've got to record a podcast today. And that is now going to go to the front of the queue. So that'll be my only thing. In terms of the sort of general like talking about the music industry, is there anything negative? I don't think so. The agents do listen and they do message me based on what I've said on the podcast. So I had more than one message from fucking last week saying, I'd done the Arctangent genre splits. I could do with a black metal band and a bigger post rock band. It's like that's like crack to an agent, isn't it? Like, oh my God, what do you mean?
Get it in my veins.
For you. So I've ignored them all so far. But yeah, that's not even really a negative. So I think overall, well, it is 100% positive. It's made us, it's made me and Arctangent and 2000 Trees more connected with our audience, which is definitely the most important thing. And regardless of, well, you can't measure that in terms of sales or commitment to the festivals from the audience. It's a fucking great thing for an independent festival to be able to interact with their audience. I really think it's fucking totally 100% positive.
That brings me to a point that we never got to questions on the last podcast. And you said you wanted to mention about that time that you got shit in 2022 about not being in connection with the fan base, or I got in touch with you and said, look, people are losing their fucking minds. I think you'd need to get your team on this and deal with it better. And we never got to it. I don't even know what the question was now. Just what you were saying about having that connection, a better connection with your fan base now of both festivals. Is there something you would like to say about that? I just drop that on you right in the middle of this.
Mate, because I'm a massive pro, I can tell you that Andrew Chilcraft asked the question, can you talk about what it was like trying to put together the lineup and clash finder for ATG 22? The band I bought my first ever ATG ticket for was Clever Girl. They disappeared off the lineup, as did several others. Was it an absolute nightmare year to put together? I ended up absolutely loving the festival anyway, and I'm so grateful the communication and openness has improved immeasurably.
There you go. That's exactly the point I was talking about. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. So, I mean, the answer to that question is, I think what people didn't realize at the time, and we definitely didn't communicate well to people at all, is that after 2 years off from COVID, we were shitting ourselves. And there was only one thing we cared about, and that was selling tickets, because we were worried about fucking survival, right? I was like, we built this thing that we love and is my job, and I've got a mortgage and a family, and we haven't earned any money for 2 years. Even with the grant, it was like we had four, I don't know exactly how many, 2 to 4 permanent staff members at that time. Never mind all the fucking directors that own the festival. It was really stressful. So we really needed a good year. And essentially what was happening is we were booking bands and they were dropping out because of COVID, right? Because lots of American bands were just not touring. Clever Girl, the band, who's still not played Arctangent, I can't actually remember why they dropped out. But every time you'd have like 7 bands dropped out and you were about to announce 12 new ones. It just felt like such a shit way to do it, to be like, hey everyone, band announcement. Before we tell you the band announcement, here's 7 bands you really love that are fucking not on the lineup.
Russian circles.
Yeah. Please book a festival ticket for this festival that's losing bands left, right, and centre. So sometimes we didn't shout about that. And with hindsight, as Dave Mustaine would say, is always 2020. And we lost control of it completely. Like, we lost control of our socials. You actually said to me at the time, you told me something at the time about it. You were basically like, you need to fucking get a handle on that Facebook group before you lose them.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
mean, I
remember
didn't
the
know. I
exact
didn't. If
wording.
you wanted to certify exactly, I felt that you were. I felt that the tide was turning in such a way that you were going to do it irreparable damage to your brand that it felt and looked like, which I knew wasn't the case. That you didn't give a shit. That you're like, fuck you. I mean, back in the day, that's what download did. You get your Krang that next week, and the poster would be there, and suddenly Sepultura went on it, or Slayer went on it, like, and you'd never. There was no fun back. I'm talking like 2002. There's no like just jump in the social media and ask the Facebook group that wasn't there. And I remember at the time, like, see something like that, an explanation to a fan. I mean, this is my fucking goat. This is my everything is the communication with people that buy tickets, obviously. But when you let something fester, an explanation to a fan can deal with it in one sentence. And most people are reasonable. Most people completely understand that shit happens. Most people coming out of COVID definitely understood that shit happened because it happened to Damnation as well. We were losing bands left, right, and centre. I was just communicating it. And you were getting that festering stuff that all your good news was just getting buried. It was just everything good you were saying was just getting absolutely buried. And why you fucking, because the first one starts a where's Clever Girl? And then it's like, why aren't you answering me about Clever Girl? Like, and then by the time five, you bunch of bastards, you're robbing me and my fucking thing, and my aunties get cancer, and you're taking my like, it can rock it very, very
Yeah.
quickly if it doesn't get an explanation. And I didn't want that for you guys. I didn't want that for Art Tangent. That was long before the friendship we've got now. But I was like, no, you need to get into. I don't know, was this your job? Is this someone else's job? You need to get on top of this before it becomes this is your reputation.
Well, and properly letting you peek behind the curtain. I mean, we didn't, we were having conversations. We were a bit like, whose fucking job is this? Because we've got a team of people that do various different things. It's like Cy is like the sales and marketing director. Mitch is the basically head of sales and marketing. But then we've got some other people running the day-to-day socials. But a Facebook group is like some sort of offshoot, isn't it? Which is really a fan-driven thing, which just sort of goes on over here,
Yeah,
and you kind of just let it go. And you might every so often I'll post on saying, "Is there any electronic acts you'd like to see at Arc Tangent?" Or who's your favorite headliner at 2000 Trees last year? But you're not really. We weren't
yeah,
really moderating that group or controlling it. We were just letting it fucking go, and that was where all the shit was going on. I actually think we were missing some of that. I would be lying in bed at night or in the morning, quick flick through Facebook, and you'd see it, and you're like, "Fuck, whose job is?" Because I'm not doing a gav. I'm not going to go and be the person talking to people on Facebook
yeah,
for various reasons. I do not want to do that.
yeah. I
I
mean,
think you do a great
it's
job of it.
you need to choose. You need to choose that life. Believe me, because you become theirs, and you need to accept that.
Yeah. So look, we really tried hard to improve the communication. And we honestly had meetings about it where we were like, what the fuck's going on here? We need to sort this out. But the podcast has helped with that, but that's not the reason for the podcast. They're
Yeah,
totally separate things, aren't they? But yeah.
yeah. I mean, just because I think it was I don't know if we're going to talk because I don't think it's mentioned how you go at the very start, the very when I think somebody puts in this is you were corralled into doing it, and I was asking you, look, come and do it. This will, I mean, it'll be good, or we can knock it in the head very quickly, but let's give it a chance. What I was telling you as well was like, the tickets aside, like you, your social media teams will want some sort of voice. They want you in TikTok. They want clips. They want reels. They want, and what are you going to do? What are you going to? Because I tell you, it's very difficult monologuing, just hitting record and you sitting there at your computer just talking to the screen. I've done it a few times. It's difficult. It's much easier having a conversation that's just free flowing and you take the snippets you like. So when I was saying that to start for you, I was like, I wasn't referring back to what happened in 2022 anyway, but this is what events are doing now. You're getting like, I mean, Vicky Hungerford, for example, where she's very good at TikTok. Now, that might not always be about Bloodstock, but she's got that audience there and she can answer questions. She does her own version of Gav. I don't have TikTok, but she does her own version of Gav and answers questions there. And things can get knocked in the head quite quickly. If I don't know, pick something random. Why aren't Megadeth playing this year? Oh, I don't know what to book them, or they're not available. Boom, that conversation is done in a way rather than having the same guy posting 42 times across all your forums and socials. Why don't we not get Megadeth? There's Megadeth. So when I'd say that to you, that would be great because your socials will have the power at that point to take this content and use whatever bits suit either of your festivals, and you won't feel like an absolute tit getting dressed up front of camera, trying to do something you're just not comfortable doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going back to Martin, what Martin was saying, do you think there's been any negative impact on your work, or is it all
So,
100%
no, I
positive?
read it differently. I didn't read that in the sense that I was in actual my time spent in doing it, or the way that you were saying about it, because it does take that it is a as I think consuming every single Wednesday. Believe me, there's a heavy sigh from my wife as I walk back into write the blurb and schedule the post every single Wednesday night for it to go out on the Thursday mornings. But like, fuck's sake, Gavin, I'm like, it's weekly, and we only give Bryant on a Wednesday. The poor bastard only gets a couple of hours to get it done for getting home. So I can only get it by the time it's rendered and put in YouTube and all the overlays. I can only get it 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night before I actually write the stuff and it gets scheduled. So, I mean, it's really our own fault that I need to go and do that. So I hadn't thought about the question the way that you were saying about it, but that is not so much an issue, but it is something that takes time, and that's not fun. Coming in at 11:30 on a Wednesday night and sitting down and going, right, Gavin, let's get creative, let's write something that isn't like, I mean, can you see some of these podcasts? This Wednesday, we will be talking about like in fucking every single pub's exact same fucking shite. Anyway, I can't say that I've noticed much negative or positive in a sense. I feel that it's a weird wee industry, isn't it? It's like the people who listen don't tell you to listen. You find out because it comes through in conversation, like they slip up rather than tell you, oh, by the way, I'm join the pod. By the way, I've listened to 54 episodes of your podcast. Well, you've that point, you think we're going to drop a clanger and you're waiting for it, or you enjoy it. So you could just say, I mean, like how many times am I on here, like waxing lyrical about every band that I listen to and love and want to promote? Like, I get a feeling that there's some people in pretty big bands because I can see every now and then when you get a story and it'll say, oh, the story's been viewed, I know, 1,100 times. And I didn't know until recently. You click on that, you can see who's viewed it. Now, a lot of times the people with the blue markers go to the top. So I can see people that are in pretty fucking respectable bands, and like pretty high profile bands that have been listening to this, that are playing to 2,000-3,000 people in the UK a night. And I'm like, right, okay, you're not watching our stories and followers if you don't listen. You're not randomly just coming across us. So if you listen, like, it'd be class if you told people. I mean, like,
Yeah.
how difficult would it be if you went on your socials? But like, there's a cracking podcast on this place that has actually supported our band as well, and you should go and listen to it. But people are just so fucking protective of their own space and their own social media and their own, oh, this is my PR, or they don't know, they've got no experience, or they're no party. And I'm a bit like, well, take a fucking page out of my book then and just listen to a band one day, fall in love with them, and come on to this podcast and fucking shout about them. I mean, because, well, like, there's no downside. There's an upside. Maybe that band will do well. Maybe they'll shout you out in return. Maybe you'll be in a guest list in 2 years' time, or maybe you'll get them in a festival that you'll get to see them. There's absolutely no negative to it. So, I haven't seen. I heard that one agent didn't like the fact that we're coming on talking about what we're talking about, but so fuck. I mean, it's like there's a lot of things that I say. People are, oh man, big scary agent and a big scary band manager. Like, fuck, nothing scary about this. Nothing. So, I haven't noticed one way or the other. No one's come on to me like, you're a fucking dick, you should have said that. And no one's come on and said, oh, by the way, the podcast's amazing and let's support it. Is there any way we can help you at all? Because you've done so much to shout out our bands. I've not seen it in any direction.
No, I think we could all probably do that more though. In the music industry, we all spend time shouting about our own thing, our own festivals, and our own. And I do try on occasion to shout out other people. We'll talk about some podcasts later probably, and yeah, we talk a lot about bands, but sometimes maybe some other stuff we should talk about. But I don't know if you've just answered this question or not. But Simon Gradham was asking, he was basically saying that everyone knows you bullied me into doing the podcast.
Bullied, such a strong term.
He didn't actually say bullied. He said corralled, which I interpreted as bullied. But what we haven't talked about as much is why you wanted to do it. Why did you even start Damnation Versus? And he also was asking why you chose me as a partner. So yeah,
okay. Well, we answer that then. The as James said, if you'd come to this podcast at this point, I was a journalist for 20 years. I was in the latter stage for the last 5 or 6 years. I was a newspaper editor. Then the COVID hit, and I no longer had a festival. I had no longer, I wasn't booking bands. I wasn't doing anything creative at all. I wasn't even fucking leave my house like the rest of the UK. And I organised a raffle, raised some money. I raised like £1,500. I was giving bolt thrower t-shirts and lanyards and just shit that I had lying about the house and stuff, like just to generate some money, generate some interest, do something. I mean, I think it was in the day that the Damnation 2020, would that have been 2020 or 2021, whatever one was cancelled. That it was on that day that we done it. And I think people were a wee bit surprised because what band would you know work with again? Like, it's not that I wouldn't work with Mayhem again, but they were rude and I didn't enjoy it. And people were like, fucking hell, that guy's, that's it, his career's done. I mean, you can't say that about a band. It's like, fuck, that doesn't happen in the music industry. I mean, what are you fucking think you're Axl Rose? Like, hey, listen, it's not quite to say, like, these bands go up on stage and fucking rip into everyone and say what they want. You honestly think that because we're at the more behind the curtain side that we can't have an opinion, we're not allowed to say anything. So, and ultimately, what are you going to do? Mayhem going, I'm not going to play Damnation again. Fucking good. I mean, that's fucking two results in. So, there was that, and I get a bit of feedback like, fuck me, Gav, I could listen to you going for another fucking, that must have been the very first Gav booting off. It was about 4 or 5 years ago, whenever that was. And it got me thinking, right, okay, well, what transferable skill do I have? I can hold an interview. And I find a lot of, I think I've said this before, don't confuse this. I think music writers are better than I am at being a music writer. Like the guys like Sam Law, my friend Sam Law, Nick Ruskell for Tang, they are better feature writers than I'll ever be. I would not give you 4,000 words and why the latest Nautilus album is great. But a lot of these guys are not great journalists. They don't go and get the story. They don't get like, well, what happened to that? And why did you do that show? And how much did they pay you? And what's it like at Vakin in comparison to Hellfest? How do you even get on to Hellfest? The questions never get asked. And I wanted to know. And I thought, hey, okay, well, let's kill some time. I'm sitting in the fucking house anyway. And started Damnation Versus. And enjoyed it. Had a couple of cracking episodes with yourself. I was just getting in there. And we broke some, it was genuine news getting broken. It was like, you saying that the festival was cancelled for the second year in a row. Ghost Bath saying that it was going to have the first time we're going to have lyrics. Vicky Hungerford came on and said she had fucking death threats for people about band bookings. I mean, stuff that was genuine news stories that says everything about the music press and that. It wasn't even picked up. It wasn't even picked up. It's like if it's no sent out in a fucking press release with a bow wrapped in it, it's just not going anywhere. And I'd done that for a couple of years, but I've already said before, I didn't like the format because you get into a rhythm with somebody. You and I would have a chat and I'd really enjoy it. And then the next week I'd have the guy for Paul Bearer and he was disinterested and he just kind of thought it was just another interview and just wanted to get off the call. And I was like, I know it's hard enough trying to do this and arrange the times, not without having to come on to the guy and he's not even interested in being there. So I knocked in the head after I had 36 episodes that would been. I knew the format worked. I just needed someone to do it with. I tried with Vicky, didn't work with Vicky, but as I say, we managed like 4 or 5 episodes. And then that sort of just died off. And then I thought, no, there's still something there though. Honestly, I think there's still something there that people would get in if you just get the right chemistry and you can go and you can chat about it. And I thought that you'd be a cracking guy for it. And you didn't. You were like, fuck that, I'm not doing
it. But so I've joked about this a couple of times on the podcast, but never asked you a serious question about it. So if I was choosing a co-host for a festival podcast between me and Vicky, I would choose Vicky as well, right? And so I can imagine why you would go with Vicky.
Also, can I like this is proper, like exposed to everything. Vicky is not only an engaging person to have a conversation with, she does not mind. Like just fucking, there's a bus, and then you go in front of it. I mean, with any artist, Vicky is a great conversation. When she was on Bloodstock's got a huge audience, and when when we've done videos with Vicky, if Bloodstock, their YouTube site, if whoever ran that gave a shit at all and gave us any sort of mention or a plug, you would see those spikes. So I could already see the avenue to make this, so we were getting a couple of thousand listeners to 10,000 listeners quite quickly if Bloodstock engaged the same way that I wanted them to engage. And unfortunately, they didn't. That was no Vicky. That was like Bloodstock themselves were a bit like, unless
they just didn't think it was worth.
I actually had a conversation once with Vicky and with Alan, her husband, and I was like, you've got this fucking 250,000 like subscribers and this sort of super fucking duper YouTube that you have built up over the years, and you've got, I don't know, another 250,000 or whatever they've got on Facebook. You're like, God, all you need to do is just push your button a couple of times, and like the whole point is it exposes. This isn't just like damnation holding on to your, like we're supposed to be co-hosting this, and then it would. But I don't know. It's not something that they did. It wasn't ever. But it just kind of when that was. It wasn't like this. It wasn't like, right, James, let's make a plan. We'll be here. We'll get this out on Thursday. It just wasn't like that. So I just
Was
again
there an ending? Was there like an
no,
ending to it?
no. I don't even. I actually don't even know. I just think it was one of those ones where I was when I said to you at the very start, I am not going to be your host. Yeah, if you're coming in, you're coming in, it's 50-50 and it's a ghost. And I don't think me and Vicky ever managed that. That was like, you and I are in this together. And we're going to make it work. So when it's inconvenient for you, you make it work. When it's inconvenient for me, I'll make it work. And the two is I'll push that through. I think Vicky saw it more as like the damnation versus before. She'll show up, be a good interview, interesting chat, have good views, good points, fucking good insight. I mean, good stories happen. She deals with big bands in the scene. So aye, there was so it never panned out. And at that point, I was like, right, okay, well, if I'm going to try again, if it's like roll the dice for a third time, I'm going to like Paul would be my absolute. If Paul was in your position, I would have went to Paul. I mean, like you and I know you for like 10, 12, 15 years. We've got a friendship. You own Art Tangent and Trees. You've got all this insight to give for Art Tangent and Trees. Let's you and I do it. But if him coming on and be like, oh, Gav, remember that time that Mayhem were at Damnation? Like, aye, because I'm at Damnation too, and the two are just fucking. It's like that meme with Spider Man pointing. It was Spider Man pointing at Spider Man. That would have been that podcast with me and Paul, because the two just have the exact same fucking stories and experiences. And then there was you, who we'd obviously got on well. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I knew that this was going to click the way it did, because even you yourself said in the first few pods, you're like, I'm still not sure if this is what I want to be doing.
No, and you got to be very careful about smelling your own farts and thinking, look at me, I'm fucking, am I not brilliant? But I did enough people say to me how that one of the things about our that they like about our podcast is how me and you are together. And that is just a random occurrence, isn't it? That has
Yeah,
happened. It's not a conscious thing. And if I look around at all the people I work with in the festival industry, I can't actually imagine running a podcast with any of them. Like me and my brother have got some great stories. I don't think it would work if we ran a podcast together. Me and Simon, me and Mars. It just there's something about the difference in our personalities and the difference in the things we do that
yeah.
make it work. I know, but yeah.
So that's how it happened, Simon. But our good friend Graham, you must have called him out, or no called him out, you must have mentioned him in a recent podcast, and he was dead chuffed for you. So here you are getting mentioned again, Graham. If you had to give your top three bands of all time that's immovable, what would they be? Fuck, I'm going to go into
Okay.
this later with some of these other points if you're asking. This was so fucking difficult. I am not that guy. I do not operate like this. I don't have a top three of fucking anything.
You got it
So,
though.
but no, I'm going to have to try and make top
Graham
three.
says he wants to know.
But I'm sure you've got a top three for every day of the week.
Well, mate, if you'd asked me for my top four, I would have been really pissed off and found it very difficult. But top three, actually, it turns out, if you'd asked me for a top two or a top four, I would have been pissed off. But it turns out the top three is actually is the right number of bands that there's three bands that have basically ruled my life. And those bands are the Mars Volta, the Wild Hearts, and Metallica. And there are some other bands that I love that would be in some sort of conversation about a top 10, like Mastodon, Opeth, Queens of Stone Age, but just none of them get close to the Mars Volta, the Wild Arts, and Metallica. It's fucking the easiest question in the world for me to answer. I didn't have to think about it for even 2 seconds.
You
Done.
know, I think I mentioned in the previous podcast as well. Like, if you say you want to spot your top three films, my knee jerk reactions: the Braveheart, the Matrix, and Goodfellas, because it was my answer at 18. And somewhere along the line, I've just banked it in a library. If anybody ever asked me this weird question, it's a get out. I've actually given it some thought when I was 18. But there's no chance in the world that that's my three favourite films now. I mean, at 43. I mean, Inception's better than all three. So if I actually sit down and think about it, like, but I probably gave that answer anytime maybe said about films. Like, I think I done a podcast and actually said that was my three favourite films in my 40s. Aye, Braveheart, fucking The Matrix and Goodfellas. And it's like this. I think I've had Nine Inch Nails, Deftones, and the combination of two, A Perfect Circle, locked in from my early 20s.
Well,
I
you're
mean,
not
anything.
allowed to have a combination of two different bands, so you best choose one of them.
Oh,
And you're
mate,
not going to
that's
choose fucking a perfect circle over Tool, are you? Come on.
there's maybe, maybe. I
Fucking
mean,
wow.
the
Wow.
13th Step. Honest to
Oh,
God,
okay.
that as an album
Right.
is so damn good. Right, okay. Force me to take Tool. So Nine Inch Nails, Deftones, and Tool would be. And then I thought, is that Gavin? 43-year-old Gavin, is it? And I'm like, no, Radiohead are better than them. And I'm like, right, okay, well, that's not your top three. Radiohead are better than those bands. The National probably now would crack that top three. And fuck, you don't like two bands being together. What I've discovered, because we will get on to post rock, and I am going to fucking crucify you for what you've done to me today. But post rock, it turns out, as a genre, is my third favourite band. Post rock is a genre. Because it turns out there is no post rock band that I have studied from fucking 9 a.m. this morning where I just go, that's why that's better than that. There is a top table that I'm very clear about, and they're my top table post rock bands. And those guys are my third favourite band. Okay? It's my fucking podcast, and that's my answer.
That is incredible. What an answer. Lovely. Okay. So let's move on. So Jim Lowe said, considering the genres of your festivals, what's a band people would think you enjoy that you just don't get? I mean, this is
So,
probably quite an easy answer for you, actually, isn't it? Because there's a bunch.
yeah, well,
I could just answer your question for you if you want.
yeah, you go. You get answering, and I'll answer it for. Go.
Metallica, Slayer, Iron Maiden, Mastodon. It's like fuck. The list is long. Opeth.
I've wrote Iron Maiden, Motorhead, Kiss, Judas Priest, because that's wrong, James. I do like and get, as he puts it, Mastodon. I do like and get Metallica. Okay, but these bands, any black metal band that's got face paint on, a bullet belt, and plastic spikes, I do not get. I just can't. I cannot get past the fucking visual. I can't get past the concept of what they're trying to do. It's just. It's too much for me. It's too much for my brain to fucking comprehend. My black metal needs to be like Vigadud, and it needs to be like early death heaven. It needs to be just something more to it than your Marduks and dark funerals and just like this fucking copy and paste, like put back in the production line. So I think a lot of people would expect it, considering I book the type of bands, that I would listen to bands like a Mayhem, for example, and I don't. Iron Maiden, more again. But the real answer, which I tell myself every time I try, is like, you're wrong, Gavin. Is Cave In. That's my. I know I should love this band, but I can't get myself to love them. And I try every year or so, and I go back because there's an odd tune that I know is an absolute classic, and then I listen to a full album again, and it loses me, and I don't know why. I don't know why I can't even make it click with Cave In.
Maybe you need to. I see. I'm not actually an aficionado, so I can't quite tell you where to go. But maybe you need the right album because there's albums of theirs that are borderline like progressive versions of the Foo Fighters, and there's albums of theirs which are like heavy, weird, fucking almost
There's one that
hardcore
starts
prog.
with there's one that starts with White Silence, or is that the name of the album? There's one that starts as quite harsh at the very start, and it was the one I always enjoyed most. And then there's other ones, as you say, they're quite, I mean, more melodic maybe, and just a bit more progressive. And I lose myself. And every time Cave In play at a festival, I always go and check them out. Every time, but my pals, the people that I listen to, the ones that like into the LLNN and Amin Ra and Cult of Luna, like they're all Cave In fans. I'm like, I should be a Cave In fan too. I'm trying. I am trying so hard to be a Cave In fan, and that's the proper answer for the bands we booked. That's a band I should love.
Yeah, I mean they're weird. They are a weird band though. They're like because they're so melodic in places, but also so like heavy and weird as well. So it's kind of like it's crossing a lot. But that is a good answer. Um,
My birthday wish then for Lisa? Can I become a Cave In fan, please? Because
yeah,
I like the aesthetics. I like the people in the band. I like what they're trying to do. I just don't know why that particular band just doesn't click for me.
yeah. Okay, that's your birthday wish. My answer to the question is well, there's a trees answer and an A to G answer, but the trees. I think people probably already know this, but I'm not at home listening to You Me at Six or Death Havana or Don Broco. Um, Having said that, those bands have done fucking amazing sets at Trees, like really brilliant sets. Even someone like Enter Shikari, I don't listen to at home. I know some Enter Shikari songs, but so there's loads of stuff at Trees which is not like it's not that I don't get it. I think sometimes I think music's not aimed at you when I'm 46, right? It's like there's an artist called Rory playing at Trees this year. Um, I just don't think Rory is aiming for the 46-year-old man crowd. It's just like it's not aimed at me. And I like the music. It will be brilliant at trees. I am not sitting at home listening to it. And then at ATG, there's more stuff I don't like than you would think. Um, so like anything super fast and heavy is rarely my thing. So all of your like emo violence stuff, is that what we're calling it?
Can we just stick with power violence? Is what other people are calling it, but we're white guys in our 40s. We get to decide and be grumpy about fucking shit like that. We are not accepting emo violence. It's fucking power violence, and that's the end of it.
We know all that like glassing and frail body stuff. I quite like watching it live. I would never listen to it at home. I don't listen to fast music really very
A
often.
screamo, sorry, before I get crucified calling it power violence, screamo is what it's always
Screamo.
been.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
Frail
Fine.
Body, Gillian Carter, they type of bands. I mean, I am all over that, obviously,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
I've said.
Yeah. So that's not really for me. And also this really techie stuff at Arctangent, like animals as leaders, that doesn't do anything for me.
That Polyphia,
Yeah, no.
I mean, you
And
forgot you booked them.
yeah,
That's how much they worked for you. You forgot you
exactly.
paid them.
Well remembered. Fucking hell. And Meshuggah, like I never put on Meshuggah at home,
No,
ever.
no.
Like if they've got a new album and we're doing it in our like book club, I will listen to Meshuggah album, the new album for 2 weeks. But I am never listening to Meshuggah at home. So there's loads of stuff that people get a bit fucking their brains explode when you're like, what do you mean you booked Unbroker and you don't listen to them? But
Yeah, they
I know
do.
what they sound like. I know their hits.
Yeah, you can appreciate something without necessarily liking it. Okay,
Yeah.
good answer. Christopher Kelly's wants to hear a bit more about how we fell in love, first gigs, favorite band you saw as a wee guy. I love the term wee guy. I take it this guy's Scottish. I love the term wee guy. What led you here? If our music is your job,
I was never a wee guy. Um,
in Glasgow, you'd still be a wee guy. You know what I mean? And it's got nothing to do with height. That term's got nothing to do with height.
um, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first? What
Fuck
do
it,
you
I'll
think?
get a bash. So I got a nod. I've got a nod relationship with music. I didn't come down the sort of path that you had, where people, aunties and uncles, mums and dads. No, listen, it wasn't a big thing in Glasgow. We never had at my schools. There was no rockers and mods and goths and no. It's like, could you play football? And could you fight? And that was it. It genuinely was it. Like no one talked about music. No one knew about music. There was nothing. So when I
How many of those two things could you do?
both, well, I could fight and I could play centre half. Football
Right.
was I mean, I could play centre. I was fit. I could play centre half, but I wasn't skillful and still. I mean, I've never been skillful at football, but I did make it to like Saturday afternoon amateur level. So I was playing with people. I could play against people who were good and be okay at marking them. But the ball at my feet, I wasn't that good. And I get battered when I was young. I was like 7 or 8. And my mum and dad made me go to kickboxing for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And I became good at fighting. And then I battered other people. Not when I didn't have to. So like when I get in a fight, I was the guy who could fight. So I thank you for that, mum and dad. There you go. Let's take a point. Let's not show Metallica or Motorhead. Let's go show him punch somebody in the fucking face.
Good. That's
So
good.
I didn't have a great English. So I remember hearing Pink Floyd, the Wall. My dad listening to Pink Floyd, the Wall, and it was a Manchester band like, called Jesus Jones. And I remember for a young age, like having some sort of connection to what being explained to me, like, well, that's quite interesting. That's different from what you're hearing on the radio. And then that phase passed. And then when you're a young guy in Glasgow and try to get it the unders, it's all happy hardcore, which for me led happy hardcore into that Dutch style, or like that hard style Gabba that I really enjoyed. And I went through a period of that. And although it doesn't sound like it, there is a correlation between that Alec Empire style, the metal stuff, and then you're like your John Connors and Hawthorne Punishers. There's a like that kind of music just reminds me of the kind of bands or DJs I was listening to back then. And then by the time I got to college and found sort of new metal at the same time as I found Amen and Raging Speed On, it was all happening at the exact same time. It was like the whole fucking buffet of here's everything you can have at one time, all the way from fucking Raging Speed on Amen to Green Day was like, and Papa Roach was just all there on the same day, it felt like, and I just fucking went into it head first. So that's how I fell in love, and I've never fallen back out.
Amazing. And how and he then says what led you to here where music is your job? Is it what's the how did you then I mean we may have already kind of talked about this
Maybe we
already,
start
but
with and how it comes from. I'm just like that. I'm like that. I think when you're younger, I know nothing about fucking. I know nothing about like technology. How these computers work. Right. When I get in music and I saw someone else was selling CDs for a fiver, the Shania Twain and the Oasis. I learned how to put a fucking CD burner into the computer I had. And I had a full scale operation going, selling fucking Coldplay's debut album and Oasis Standing on the Shoulders of Giants and Shania Twain at college. And I was getting into college and I went to a building site. My dad, I was going as a labourer and he's paying me £3 an hour. And I was walking away with £400 because I was walking with a big fucking black bag full of CDs that I'd made. Honestly, see if you tell me now to 43, I couldn't even tell you how I could possibly do that. But that's just the way I am. And then when I get into music, I was like, oh, I love this, but I can't play guitar. I don't know what drums, don't know anything about it. How did I get involved? It was a promoter, and then somebody told me a bus company. I bought 2 buses and fucking enjoyed English. So I became a newspaper editor. And I'm a bit like that. Once I say, right, okay, I'm going to go and try and do that, I do it
one
ultimately.
day you
So
heard a podcast and then you started a podcast.
I guess I heard a podcast and I started one. I'm a bit like, I can't be left. I can't be left with nothing going on. There's too much going on. I'm like a fucking firework in a bin. I need something to focus on. And when I fell in love with music, it wasn't enough just to listen to it. So that's how I end up here.
Fair play, fair play. Okay, so I don't know. I want to be careful about covering the same ground. And I think we've established that my memory's shit. So
Well,
if
at the
I
end of
have
the
covered,
day, some people might not have heard whatever there was in the first 2 weeks when we done starting our festival. So the
yeah.
question's been asked. So this guy obviously doesn't know.
Okay. I mean, look, I was around a lot of music when I was young. My parents loved music, and I hooked on to some of those bands like the Beach Boys and Doctor Hook. I think the most rock stuff there was Meatloaf, probably. Um, but like at some point in the sort of late, well, it would have been like 91 or whatever, there's like this sort of kind of 80s rock just came into my life via the band Extreme. And then I kind of went down that rabbit hole of like Bon Jovi and the Little Angels and Def Leppard. And then like Guns N' Roses were like they sort of teetered on the edge of that because Guns N' Roses were quite like cock rock, I think they used to call it back in the early 90s. It was quite Guns N' Roses was quite like that in a way, but it sort of took you into another direction. Next thing you know, it's just like I was just obsessed with. So I used to buy Kerrang magazine and Raw. Um, I think Raw was like a every 2 weeks version of Kerrang, basically. And I listened to fucking everything. So it's like the Brit rock stuff with the Wild Arts and Therapy. I was all over Metallica. I was into grunge via Nirvana and then onwards. And had a big bit of like pop punk in '94 with Green Day and Rancid and Bad Religion. And I was just like, I was never cool enough to go and listen to like Emperor or I wasn't right out on the edges of sort of any black metal or really any extreme metal or
Yeah.
post metal or any of that
But no,
stuff.
but also not in the same sort of like you say Emperor and you're like, well, who cares? But you weren't there to see the first botch shows. You didn't go to see the Fuse back then. There was none
No,
of that stuff happening either.
no, not at all. I was like, what's popular? Like I would just remember. I mean, it's mad when you look back when you think that grunge and sort of Green Day and the Offspring, and all of that fucking exploded within about 2 years of each other. And in the UK, we've got the Wild Arts and Therapy at the same time, and the biggest band in the world is Metallica and fucking Guns N' Roses. Just like it's basically someone's gone around with like a fucking cannon just spraying rock bands everywhere. There's millions, and they're all brilliant. And I
Yeah.
think all of those bands, even the fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers back then, were good. It's like it like stands up as an amazing time for music. So anyway, we lived in the countryside, so I couldn't go to see any gigs unless my parents drove me there. And I looked for the date today in December 1992. I went to my first gig on my own, as in my parents drove me there, drove me and my friends there. Went to see Extreme, and then after that, I was just would would go to like Wolverhampton and Rugeley and Birmingham and Derby and Nottingham, basically every city within an hour of us. And I would be always on at them to take me to see more gigs. I mean, it's fucking shit for your parent, isn't it? It's just like, will you drive me to
Fucking hell.
Birmingham
So
for an hour?
what age would you have been?
So in 92, I was 14. So my first gig was 14. So up until I could drive, so there was probably about a 3.5 year period of them just driving us around.
So Rob would go as well.
Yeah, when he got a bit older, he used to come. And I have various friends who would come with me, and their parents would never drive us. My mum and dad were fucking amazing at that. It was like they would be a bit like, why isn't that guy's parents driving you? It's like I don't know, but
A piss heads,
yeah.
mum.
So my dad used to like come with his mate, and they'd go for a curry, and we'd go and watch the band, and then they'd pick us up afterwards. Um,
Class.
so I don't know. I just got really obsessed with it, and I never really put that down again. And then I did all this like being an accountant thing, which was a totally separate thing. And then um, at, at some point in my life, we were just really fucking disaffected with our jobs. We just really didn't like our jobs, and we were looking for something to do. And I think it was just a drunken conversation. I mean, that story. I don't think I'm going to tell that story now because it's a story that I've told on a
Yeah.
million
If you
fucking
do want to hear this explained over the course of an hour, it is on how we started our festivals, which is like episode 4 or something.
Yeah. And like that's a long story, but we just started a festival, basically. Shall we start a festival? Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it mentioned that one about the first gig bit that I missed. I often tell folk when they say about your first gig, I tell them my first metal gig. I tell them the very first metal gig I went to was Raging Speed Torm, Amen, and Charger because it's a fucking belter. Our first metal gig. I mean, it's proper balls on the table, fucking brownie points. How could that be your first metal gig? But my first gig in 1998 was Natalie Imbruglia, which was also fucking great, but maybe the less balls on the table at the Barrowlands. So my first experience of a live show was a sold out Barrowlands with Natalie Imbruglia playing pop bangers. Strange enough, I think there was a support band called Casino. They just saying this sticks in my head. I don't even know if that's true or not. But I think there's a band called Casino that supported who were shit. But the Natalie Imbruglia was excellent. And then my second ever gig, a month later, I think, was Radiohead on the just before the Kid A tour, I believe.
Fucking hell.
I know. So it was and then when I was in, I was all in. I mean, I was like, I no one was driving me to fucking gigs or anything, but I was, I was. I remember one time we got up and buying the tickets and then just looking at them going, it was Tool at the Barrowlands on the Friday, Incubus at the Barrowlands on the Saturday, Limp Bizkit at the SECC on the Sunday, and you're like, fucking hell, that's 3 days in a row. That's brilliant. That's all I want to do. All I want to do is go and see these bands and just fucking enjoy this music because fuck me, I had a lot of catching up to do. So I did, and it was brilliant. And here we are, fucking a lot of years later, James. A lot of years later.
Don't do the calculations.
Do not do the calculations.
So all those years later, Miles Kite would like to know if you have to get on stage and do lead vocals with one of the acts performing at your 2025 festival, which band are you choosing?
No, I've given it zero thought because that's a terrible fucking question, Miles. Why would I go on stage and do vocals? Can't sing a single note. I suppose I probably could do the growly stuff, but not as well as the guys that are doing it. So I'm going to go with my good friend Meryl Streep, and I'm going to shout, fuck the Tories and fuck the landlords and fuck everybody else. And I'm going to be fuck the priests.
Mate, can we not make that happen? That sounds like a brilliant idea.
No, I know because he's a fucking that kind of daft shit is. No,
he's listening.
I'm also not. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying if I was forced to. I tell you what.
Feels like you could have chosen someone who wasn't listening, but you chose someone who was listening. I wonder if you're subconscious in some way.
No, where's the first bit I said? We get 1,500 subscribers, 1,500 Patreon subscribers. I will go on the stage at Damnation and shout fuck the Tories with Meryl Streep, right? whether he wants me on stage or not, which will add to the whole fucking punk ethos yet. So 1,500 subscribers and I will get up there and shout about fucking landlords and priests and Tories.
Incredible. Well, as I've said before, this all sounds like a great idea until you're actually up there and you feel like an absolute tit, as I did with Future of the Left. So I'm not looking for my next opportunity to to go on stage. But I like it. I like a scream. I've done. I've been in a few bands screaming my head off, so I would go for um, some like post metal, June or Code Speaker. I'd like to have a fucking roar along with Code Speaker.
No,
So yeah,
no, I don't know if Code Speaker or June are listening, but I know for a fact that someone who knows someone in Code Speaker or
no,
June
but
is listening. So let's listen, guys. We get to 200 subscribers. James is going to go on stage with fucking Code Speaker
no, no,
or
no.
June and give a big old fucking middle class roar, which we'll want to hear. So let's go. I play tennis. Trying to fucking drag me in with the Stables chat last week. I saw somebody mention that. Like, oh, Stables and tennis. Like, don't fucking drag me into this. Don't drag
Yeah,
me into this.
mate. How
Mate,
many ponies have you got?
say that again.
How many ponies do you own?
Ponies. I don't want any ponies at all. Don't start your shit with me, James. Not one. We loan it. We loan it like the working class people that we are. So talking about getting dragged into stuff. James Scarlett. Why did I not have something planned for you? I feel like if I didn't get caught out with this and only see it this morning, I should have had something planned to screw you over. What are Gav's top 3 post rock albums of all time? And then James being James in order. It's like, so I saw that this morning. Now, think of like the top 10 albums of the year one and me having a week or 2 weeks and really going in for it and listening to it so much. Like, that didn't mean that much to me. It was a bit like, well, it's any fucking given year. Like, then you're asking me to commit to record my top 3 records for my favourite genre. So all I've done today, I mean, and all I've done genuinely is listen to album after album after album of post rock. I mean, I need to listen to some Napalm Death just to clear my ears out. I mean, I'm fucking post rock into a massage.
Are you
And
going to tell everyone the message you sent?
so, what did the message say, James?
So you sent me a message earlier on that said, I can't concentrate on anything but my top 3 post rock records. And then there was a pause. And then you said, who the fuck would ask something like that? And then there was another break. And then you were like, it was fucking you. I didn't even look at the names until then, you bastard. So the question that had annoyed you the most, I had slipped in myself.
Aye, in
Lovely.
a fucking few hours' notice. So there's a bunch of other shit here that I never even get a chance to headspace to think about. So I'm like, is the Earth is not a cold, dead place? Is that not as good as? Why is this person slagging off this other explosion in the sky? I don't understand that. What's going on? And now I'm having this inner turmoil in my head. Did I love that Mogwai album as much as I thought I did? Or is this just like, so I had to go back and fucking listen to them all, like every one after the other. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's hard. Sorry.
so I've came to the conclusion, as I alluded to it earlier, that post rock doesn't work like that for me. It just doesn't. That's the final fucking piece of that jigsaw. Even when I went back to all my classic albums, all the ones that I like the most, I think there's only one that actually stands out of zero filler, of zero anything that I don't feel like it takes a dip. The rest of them, with all these bands, their best stuffs. There is no white pony. There is no, I don't know, lateralist. There's no like, and post rock for me, there's no one where you go, like, that's the album, the United by Fate by fucking Rival Schools, but all 2 records are pish. It's like there's no one that you go like, oh, this is Mogwai's one of the rest of it. Mogwai's best stuff is scattered across 10 fucking albums. Mono's best stuff is scattered across 5 different albums. There's no one that just goes like, that's the one. I think there's a top table of post rock bands for me, and it's very distinct in my head. It's Mogwai, Explosion in the Sky, Godspeed You Black Emperor. Now, they'll sit at the table with the rest of them eating Swan and explaining why they're not actually post rock, but they're not equal. They are the 3 big boys. But the other bands that get in the table with them are This Will Destroy You, Mono, We Lost the Sea, and Maybe She Will. And that is the top table of post rock. Now, there's many other brilliant Sleep Makes Waves and Caspian and so many other great bands happily sit on, but God is an astronaut, all brilliant bands, not the elite level Premier League of post rock. So I was going through what ones of these bands I've got the actual standout fucking album, and this list changed. This list changed so fucking many times now. Godspeed You Black Emperors, Lift Your Skinny Fist and like Antennas to Heaven. That record is going to come in at number 3, right? This beautiful vinyl. We're doing props now. We're doing visual props on those, not on YouTube. The first 6 minutes of this record, if any other band had written the first 6 minutes of this record, it would be the best post rock they'd ever written. It's that fucking sublime. It's that great. It's like, does anybody write post rock that's as uplifting and as cripplingly depressive as Godspeed You Black Emperor? I don't think it is. It's like, it could be the soundtrack to your daughter's birth and your mother's funeral. That's the way it feels when you're listening. You're not sure where you're supposed to be. It's so fucking emotive. What I did learn today, which I never knew beforehand, despite listening to this fucking record a million times, is side A, the first 2 tracks, they call it disc 1 and disc 2, the way it was put together, composed, is 10 out of 10 post-rock. Side B is maybe closer to challenging 6 out of 10 post-rock. It's still good, but there's a portion of the track Sleep where it sounds like someone's left a broken guitar against an amp, and you're getting feedback of this, like, I don't know, a wailing fucking cat going for 3 or 4 minutes. If you aren't the most fucking dedicated post-rock fan, there is no chance in the world you could even listen to that in the same room. And I remembered the last time I put this vinyl on when I had a night when my wife listened to records. I could actually see the anxiety building up in her. She was listening to it like someone was doing that with their fucking nails down blackboard as she was listening. And every right to, because it is like that. You need to be so invested in this record when you're listening to it. That challenge is something you can get by. And the rest of it, the last track is good as well, but it's more like an outro. So it's the greatest post rock ever written for one half of it. The second half is good, but it's not 10 out of 10. Number 3.
Good.
Number 2. Mogwai's Mr. Beast. Now, there may well be a better Mogwai record out there, and I am of the opinion that Mogwai don't have a greatest record. Well, that is it, but my opinion that there's no standout one. Everyone will have a difference. This is very personal to me. Not only does it start with auto rock, which is top tier post rock. My wife walked down the aisle to auto rock. It's got Glasgow Mega Snake in it, one of my favourite post rock tunes, and then it finishes with We're Not Here, or We're No Here, which was the track they finished their set at the 10th anniversary. I think it was one of the best post rock tracks ever written. So, Mr. Beast for me as a stand, it strikes a different chord to what anybody else listening to it. I mean, you get the memory of your wife walking down an aisle, or the amount of fucking good times I've had when watching like We're No Here, then it's going to hit different to, I don't know, listening to another post rock or a Mogwai album where you haven't got those ones. So that's number 2. And the one post rock record that I feel doesn't have its lull, obviously, We Lost the Sea, Departure songs. Now, what can I fucking say about this record? If you don't know and you haven't heard already, here's a summary again. These guys were a post-metal band. They sounded like Cult of Luna. And they had 2 records that came out that sounded like Cult of Luna. And it was good. Decent stuff, a good record. Nothing that stands out for that scene. And then in 2013, the singer took his life and the band sort of disappeared or done whatever you would do. And when that sort of tragedy struck, and rather than just giving it up or try to replace the singer, they became a post-rock band and they recorded Departure songs. And the whole concept of the album is people try to achieve greatness and ultimately dying along the way. And it's just, you feel it. You feel it from A Gallant Gentleman, which is there, like Smells Like Teen Spirit. They kind of almost rebel against that track because it's got like, I don't know, fucking 13 million views in YouTube, and the rest of it's like not as well known. So they don't embrace that track as much as they should, because it is an absolute classic. It's about a British explorer who was, I think he was at one of the North or South Poles, and he realised that everything was going to shit, and he basically sacrificed himself. He walked to the tent, said, "I'll see you later, gents," and went and died in the snow rather than taking any more rations for the team that he was with. Bogarty, the second tune, is about the guys who went into Chernobyl. He opened up the sluice gate to let the water go, try and cool down one of the fucking whatever it was they had to do, or let the water out so it didn't blow up the radioactor and fucking kill fucking half the world. The Last Diver, David Shaw, is the story of a diver, David Shaw, who went down to rescue a diver who died in the process of trying to get him. And then the final two tracks are the story of Challenger, the American astronaut mission, which they all died in that as well. So it's got that extra. Post rock's a weird one because they don't always get that extra level of meaning, and then they've managed to do that with their own personal tragedy, which it isn't in this record, but you know it's there in the background. And then they also write the fucking greatest post rock that's ever been put together, one after the other in succession of 5 tunes. It's honestly, guys, I've been fucking singing this band's praises since I came across this record a few years back. It is recognised. This isn't one of my. This is Gav away off on a mad tangent. When you go and you go to a Reddit site, or you go, this is recognised as like the best post rock album of the decade, or best. But other people feel this way about this album. It's not like I've just got a wee soft spot for this one band, and here I am just shouting to the clouds myself. So I recommend it if you haven't yet discovered We Lost Six. I'm not the biggest band in the world. I'm not even the biggest band in the post rock space, but they're fucking incredible. And this record will be played in full live at Tangent, which is a fucking joy to behold.
Wow, mate. I mean, good answer. I think the key to good journalism is a good question. I think the best question of the entire year of Two Promoters One Pod is that question, right? Because it brought the Gav that we all wanted to see out.
Well,
Lovely.
how many,
Mate,
how
you
many
gave it
rums?
the beans.
I appreciate that. How many rums have you had? You make me blush. No, I feel strongly about that record. I know. I mean, Mark's from Australia. You know, like me and him are no fucking cutting about. And Sundays having a Yorkshire pudding and a dinner together. And I mean, so, but we're friendly. We're very friendly. I mean, I campaigned on their behalf, on their agent's behalf, to get them the slots at Art Tangent. I knew what that would mean to the Art Tangent because I know that they sets are going to be packed. I know it's going to be a great fucking booking, and I am very friendly with the guy. And he's the original member. He's the guy he's the songwriter. Is the guy that whenever it started in 2007 or 2008, and it means a lot to him as well. And I love that. I love that whole like how much this guy's from fucking Australia. The band's from Australia. And they're like, oh, like getting on Art Tangents, like a bucket list for them for the other side of the world. And you're like, I love all that. So there's a lot of layers to be lost to see for me. And I'm glad we're all going to get a chance to get together and fucking have a good old greet. have a
Mate,
good old greet.
It's going to be fun. Friday night could be fun after their set. We could have
Aye,
some.
they're live with our stereotypical fucking Australians. They like a drink and they like a party. Believe me, they've flown halfway across the world to come to Art Tangent. They're not going to say, right, okay, James, time to tuck us up. No, man, they're going to be in the VIP bar drinking.
Good stuff. Okay, fantastic.
Ben Joyce, because that was just me. You're not putting yourself in the spot for post rock, eh? No, fuck no.
No. Fuck no.
Well, the big Ben Joyce, he would like to know what's the worst thing about heavy metal music? And I just metal.
I mean, I feel like he's trying to lead me down a path which I'm not going to go down. And my answer is that in some ways, the best thing about being a metal fan is that you're an outsider. But the worst thing about being a metal fan, the worst thing about heavy metal is that you're an outsider and people will always look down on you. And it really fucks me off that I can like be chatting to one of my mates, let's say it's a friend from school or a friend from uni, and they're really into music. And there's some way the conversation's always got this underlying like tone of metal is in some way like artless.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's devoid of, it's not an art form. And they're thinking about Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. And I can argue Iron Maiden and Judas Priest case if I wanted to, but the answer is what about Cult of Luna? What about Blood Incantation? What about Mastodon? What about Opeth? Fucking Black fucking Sabbath. You know, basically metal is like the best genre, right? And the most annoying thing is when people I don't want them to. I don't want people to understand that. I just want you on a bit of respect. Whereas, because I think people are looking down their nose, they think we're all walking around carrying fucking axes, drinking from fucking horns,
Bite
and
head,
some and
bite heads
yeah,
off bats.
yeah, yeah, and sometimes we are, but when you're listening to fucking Leviathan by Mastodon or the new Blood Incantation album, it's as good as fucking OK Computer. So it should have Blood Incantation is as good as fucking Radiohead at their best. It should have the
Let's just.
respect.
I'm trying to give you the space to chat, right? Well, I mean, let's not get carried away. I'm
No,
all for Blood
well,
Incantation being as good as in Rainbows. Like, yes, I'm happy with that, right? But
okay, well,
let's leave
look,
OK Computer on its own
okay.
little pedestal.
It would be a mistake. Okay, let's not go down that. But that's what frustrates me about metal. I don't know. I'm not sure what Ben was getting at. I think it was probably other things.
Yeah, I mean, aye, but maybe that I read it quite innocently. Again, I come at this from a very I don't have the background in metal. I never came from it. My pals, we went metalers, we went. So I was a 19-year-old guy with my own opinions and my own spine by the time I get. So I never felt like I went through. I feel like I hear a lot of stories for other people, like they defended the right to be a metaler through a really difficult stage in their life. Like they went to school and had people shitting them through school, and they felt that. And I see it. I see it when they're in their 20s or 30s and their 40s. That sometimes the nicest thing, like metalers are the fucking nicest folk in the planet. It's you put 6,000 of them in an arena in Manchester. If it wasn't for the laws of needing the security that you need to go pay to get there, you could almost put your fucking house in it. That no one's fighting. I mean, it takes a lot to get a metal crowd to turn on each other. It's most people, the vast majority are looking out for each other. The vast majority are just good natured folk. They're not stealing stuff. They're not. I mean, and I've been at a lot of gigs where that's not the case. Like when you go to a download or a damnation or a art tangent or something and shit's getting stolen from your pocket, you can guarantee that's not a fan.
Yeah,
That's an organised crime gang that have came in to do that. It's like you just I just feel
yeah,
like
mate.
there's some,
That's an indie rock fan that's broken in,
aye, somebody
basically.
like, oh, fucking easy prey here. Like, aye, exactly. So when the nicest folk in the world, but I also feel that maybe for some of that background I never experienced, the worst thing about metals is they go in the other direction. They become I hear sometimes like, oh, when that's normie music. You ever heard that? Like people with metals calling someone who isn't a metal a normie. And I'm like, I'm like, that's exactly what we hate about
Yeah,
you're calling in the other direction. So you're now when you know what I've defended the right to be a metaler, and now you've turned into exactly the thing you hated at school. It's a bit like now you're like this is I get ownership of this, and you just because you've listened to one Slipknot song or you heard a Marilyn Manson, you're still a normie. You're like you've got no right to be listening to Blood Incantation. You've got no right to be listening to Clutch, and you're like that fucking depresses me a wee bit because you're like, no, that's not. We're not supposed to be that side. We're supposed to be like, no, the all inclusive. Like, listen, you might come across for the having to listen to fucking Snow Patrol. Then we're here with our arms on wide, which is probably a Snow Patrol title. So, I don't like that. And there's something I don't know about desperation to have an identity. Sometimes I think we buy into our own memes. I think that sometimes you get. I've been going to gigs now. I don't know since we're fucking 19, so 20 or 20, 25 years. And you get this asking girls to name 3 songs to say that they like Cannibal Corpse. Right? I get the meme, and I get there's maybe a bit of sex. I've never like I know I'm not a woman, but I have been with women at gigs, ex-girlfriends, pals, friends. I've never actually. Not only have I never heard that question being asked, I've never even seen anything remotely resembling that. Call like, why are you here? Well, and I think there's another conversation when I'm like, the reason I've probably not heard that is because when you go to these gigs, is 90% men. And unfortunately for us, as the men, I include myself in that, we're not overly confident. And we're certainly not fucking strolling up to some women going, oh, name free chat, and you get it. Like, I've not seen that person. I feel like it's one of these things that might have happened at an indie rock show in California. And it become a meme, and it becomes like, oh, we'll just adopt that. And then we sit and then we just kind of present ourselves as if that's happening all the time. We're just running about. And I mean, fuck, I'd probably get crucified for this. When we're no, that happens every fucking. I'm sure, no, sexism happens. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying some of this stuff you buy into, and it's just like, I don't know if that's really the case. There just doesn't seem to be enough women to ask that question at these gigs. And then secondly, the guys that there just don't really have that amount of spunk about them to go up and be that fucking confrontational.
Mate, you got away with the vegans, so you got a chance here, at
No, I'm
least.
not. Listen, and I am the most. Listen, I'm the most. I want my daughter to grow up and come to this fucking game with At the same time, there's sometimes I feel like the big metal site or like the fanzines that I think they use it a lot to their advantage. It's like they know for a fact that Machine Gun Kelly isn't metal, so they report on it because they know that the reaction for the metal fan base will be like, "This isn't metal, this is metal." And then what happens? The story you put out about Blood Incantation had 300 reads, clicks. The one you done about Machine Gun Kelly had 30,000. So they just use that again. And like, we need to get out this headspace of stop being so fucking defensive here. But just let that Machine Gun Kelly story die and comment more on the Blood Incantation one, and then maybe we can have more stuff with Blood Incantation and Damnation and that tangent and the rest of it. That's what I mean about the whole buying into the perception, that whole, like, we need to defend the right of metal and we need to comment and say that Machine Gun Kelly isn't metal. It's like, just fucking ignore them. Ignore the sites that are covering it.
Yep. Okay, good answer. So Michael Miller would like to know, or would love to hear, as he's sure that many people would, your opinions on the Bloodstock Winter Gathering.
It's a fucking Michael Miller. Oh. Somebody said, if Gav holds his head before he starts a rant, you know it's going to be a good
Then you
one.
know it's a good rant.
No, there's no rant coming. There's no rant coming. So here's the behind the scenes for how this all panned out from my perspective. Nothing massively controversial.
I mean, there'll be a bunch of people here who don't know what the Bloodstock Winter Gathering is as well. Let's not forget.
Well, you explain it to them then, James.
Well, Bloodstock, which is one of the bigger rock and metal events, outdoor festivals in the UK, has announced a indoor festival for early December, I believe, featuring bands such as Candlemass, Venom, and Hellripper, and I can't remember anyone else. So yeah, that's the ground.
That sums up. So I feel like it might have been last summer, even into the winter time. Someone got in touch with me and said, "Oh, by the way, Bloodstock are looking at a winter event," and I was like, "Ah, great." I think we've always been like, there's no point just trying to bullshit. You don't want any competition at all. You don't want any competition. You don't want to be a fucking Man United football game. You don't want to be a pop punk festival. You don't want to be a Alanis Morissette. Fans of Damnation are pretty open-minded people who go to a lot of shit. You don't want something else happening that could possibly take them away from what's happening there. Fucking, we've seen some weird shit that's been going on in Manchester around that people are going to instead of Damnation. You would think there's no competition, and that might only be 10 tickets. With 10 tickets at fucking £155 is £1,500. So, 10 tickets is still something, even if it's no everything. So, I heard that in the first place. I was like, okay. And then I forgot about it, and clearly nothing had happened. And then I feel like it was Monday. The same person on Monday got in touch with it. Have you seen this Bloodstock? Bloodstock have got a countdown happening. And I've heard everybody's been tight-lipped about it, but I've heard that it's going to be this winter event. So I was like, right, okay, I'll go and check it out. And it was like, I went there, as I say, this icy 3, and they'd been counting down, apparently to this, and I think it was to be announced would have been Thursday, where it was, so it would have been Thursday. So I was like, right, okay, there's nothing, no one's saying anything, there's nothing that can be done about it. It's not going to be a band announcement. They've already sold it. If you were going to have a bash, going back to what they'd done previously and have an indoor event, this would be the year. I mean, probably fed up sitting at home counting their profits for the sold it event. They've got coming up this summer. I mean, if you're going to have a bash at an indoor one, this is the year to go and do it. But ultimately, I've always been the point, if you're going to go and do something, don't sit in the fucking internet and whinge about it. Go and do it. You know what I mean? Don't, you should book this band or do this. Go and fucking do it. There's no barrier to entry. Certainly no barrier to entry for Bloodstock in their experience. So I'm a bit like, I can't have it both ways. You can't say like, oh, if you want to do something better, go and do it yourself and then start pissing and moaning when someone else goes and does it. So just like, okay, we'll take it to the chin. We'll see what it is. Counting down the days. I was about like, okay, we'll see. I knew it was going to be an indoor event. Someone told me the wrong city, And I was like, right, okay. And I get told Candlemas. So I was like, right, okay, we'll see. I didn't expect Candlemas to be the headliner. And then it came out, it was Candlemas, Venom Inc., as you say, Hellripper, which the Hellripper's one of the wee oddities because they're on the poster as well, and Sheffield. I think it's the Red Mill in Sheffield. And December, a month apart from where we are. So it was about like, fine. I mean, fine. It's a very Bloodstock bill. It's a band you'd expect to see at a Bloodstock. Personally, if I was Bloodstock and the sort of demand there is for some sort of power metal in the UK and the extensive contacts list they've got and experience and what they've done and how they started that, that's what I'd have done. I'd have went and done the biggest and best indoor power metal and I can sold it out in the first day, I'm sure, with the reach that they've got. But I've went for a more traditional Bloodstock lineup, the way you would see the bands, like Raised by Owls, for example, a good band. And I think they just played Bloodstock there and they're back on this event. And Red Method, another band you see Bloodstock that are on this event. And it's fine. Paul being Paul, always goes to the nuclear option. He's always like, that's it. It's Manchester Arena and it's Gojira and Acid Bath and the Dillinger Escape Plan and fucking everyone's going to be asking for refunds. They're not going to go there. And we did pull an announcement together and say, right, okay, fair enough. If they come out and it's fucking all guns blazing, right in our patch and our weekend kind of thing, we will put something out and just try to keep our own fight going. But then it landed and I was like, okay, it's fine. It's no something it's aiming for. Doesn't look as if it's looking in Damnation's direction at all. It just happens to be convenient for them on a year that they've sold out to do something in a different city in a different month with a different lineup and no bigger or smaller or more in competition with Damnation in any tour date. It would be in a similar size venue of a band like Candlemas. So it was much to do about nothing in the sense. By the time, from our point of view, for Damnation's like, oh my god, what's the impact going to be here by the time it came out? So I'm sorry, it's not a bit more controversial and it's not a bit more like me fucking lose my mind about it. But it's what it is. Is that fair enough, James?
Good. Yeah. I mean, look, I think you're right that everyone's terrified about competition constantly, and we all wish we could exist in a place where there was no competition, and you're constantly aware of new stuff happening that sometimes crosses over with you and sometimes doesn't. And Bloodstock had a potential to cross over heavily with Damnation, but I don't think this doesn't really. Well, like you said, it's much ado about nothing in a way, and it's no more or less than another tour date would be for you. So yeah, good. I mean, lots of people mentioned it on the pod Facebook, so we should definitely talk about it, I think.
Aye. And there you go, a free bit of advertising for you too, Bloodstock. Don't mention it.
Okay. Alex Corsten says, if you could ban one thing from your own festivals, what would it be?
See, I'm not a big fan of this whole ban idea anyway. I like people to have a bit of their own freedom out within the whatever the fucking laws are. So what I would ban and what I think the people who do it would even ban themselves is whinging on the day immediately to social media about stuff that come the next day or the weekend or the Monday that you would regret yourself. Like see that go pressing the fucking DEFCON 5 button because the pizza queue is too long. I mean, pressing the DEFCON 5 button because a man said something to you in the car park that you didn't like. It's a lot of it. I don't look at social media over the weekend at all for that reason, because it's one of those ones that it just attracts the people that have got some sort of, the sound is fucking terrible on stage 3. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do about that? Like for that set by, I don't know, downfall of gear. I'm going to run up and start trying to mess about with speakers. So you're just, a lot of the stuff, it's like, with these people, almost by the time they come down and they have that proper debrief, and people are going to, the same people that are moaning about it have forgotten about it. It's like, it was important to you in your microcosm that second, and then you got your slice of pizza, you get back in and you completely forgot about it. And there's a more serious side to that I wish people would understand. Like, I've had messages that I've saw on Instagram 2 weeks later about my mate's tripped up and banged his head. Can you get first aid to the side stage? There is I don't know what you think's happening at Damnation Night, but it's me, right? It's me up there in the balcony, and then there's Paul running a bit like headless chicken, and then we've got like Angela and Marius, and then a team of volunteers that are doing their job in the day. There is no HQ in London where I've got a social media team saying,
It's not the
"Oh,
emergency services, is it?
I mean, we pay thousands to have first aiders on site. We're legally obliged. They're there. You see them when you come in, and we've got security guards. Where your mate tripped up and banged his head, see 4 foot away. The guy in his big high vis yellow jacket. That's a security guard. Tap him in the shoulder and say, "My fucking mate's just busted his nose open," and he will take him to the first aid. They'll get him bandaged up, and they can go on their day. Messaging me on fucking Instagram to see at the end of November drunk in a hotel in Scotland is not going to fix your mate's nose. So a wee bit. I don't. A sense. I don't know. That's a disconnect with real life when you think you're dealing with Amazon Prime and Jeff Bezos and no Daft Gavin McAnally for two promoters one pod. It's like,
look, fucking hell. I've got your phone number, and if it's happened to me and my best mate, I'm still not fucking messaging you on the night of yeah, you're not going to save us.
No, I'm not going to save you. No, I'm not going to be like fucking big red button, dude. Deal with it. So, that's something. But it's not a case of banning it. I feel like that. I'd like to see that be less of a thing.
Okay, good. I would ban Mr. Brightside being played on the silent disco, because that is a scourge it's just the fucking worst thing ever to happen to the world. So that, although now I think about it, I probably have the power to actually ban that. I could ban that. Maybe I should ban that. The other thing I would ban is I don't know, just the sandpit and just generally at 2000 Trees. Just me, I would ban me having to be anywhere near the kids area when I could be watching the bands I booked.
Ban myself.
Ban myself from being within 100 meters of the sandpit.
Oh, you know what? It's James. I have to say, but the whole like learning things for each other, good or bad or whatever, it's like I have never seen a man so dedicated to his lineup to the point of being rude at his event than you. It's like you're a pleasant guy. I mean, what you're seeing in front of you is the James Scarlett you tend to get in a pub or we have private conversations. But if you're en route to see a band, you're not in the mood for chat for fucking anyone.
No.
It's almost like fucking hand in the face moving the way I'm heading to see Bosk, mate. Like we're going to see Bosk.
Because I spent all year trying to book this exclusive fucking last ever set by Ithaca. And you think, oh, it's like there's a mate from school that you could chat to later after the bands are finished, or you could miss Ithaca. It's like
I told you this one was definitely gonna be all over the place. It was shit that's coming. You mentioned silent disco. No, listen, this fucking podcast will talk about people who listen and the shit that kicks off it. Firstly, whoever on our Ko-fi had said that they wanted Cold Bones to come back. Cold Bones want to come back. So they have been on saying they left a message on YouTube saying whatever PX3 2018 Bixler 2020, 2021, whatever it was, 2025, and then a wee like 3 dots. Like, fuck me, man. That's impressive. That is fucking impressive. And then they got in touch with me and said, oh, we'd also like to do Damnation as well. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make that happen to both Cold Bones and whoever it was. I think it was Andrew. Was it Andrew Goodfried done that? But fuck me, that is impressive, number one. Impressive, number two, is Nordic Giants want to do the silent disco. They want to put the set on with the full visuals and do the fucking thing, which also a reply to the public.
That's not me kidding me.
That's not me spilling any sort of beans in it. They posted on the YouTube or one of our socials to say, how about Nordic Giants doing it with full visuals? I'm like, that would be spectacular at the end of the night, getting it. Mate.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
Are you being serious?
I'm sure they're being serious, so that would be class.
Because that would be class.
Headphones, the experience of that. You're tuned into it. It's almost like you're at the fucking IMAX and you get the headphones on and they're doing it live in front of you, the visuals, and you're getting there. Make those happen, James.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the reason I brought it up on the podcast is because I wanted some mad ideas. That would be really fucking cool. Because the thing about the silent disco is the more electronic it is, the easier. And there's a lot of like piano and keys and stuff in that, isn't there? So it would be easy to do. And actually, oh man, fuck yes, great idea. I didn't know that.
Happy anniversary, mate. Happy anniversary.
Good. Good. Okay. What about I'm just looking at the time and looking at the remaining questions. Um, Alex Corson asks if you could ban one thing from your
That's
own
what
film.
we just done, you fucking idiot.
Adam. The thing is, if this was you that had just done that, you would cut it, right?
I know, but James,
But
so
I
you need
don't.
to understand here is I wouldn't have just done that.
No, because no,
I'm
because
switched on enough to realise what I just said 30 seconds ago.
just to let the listeners into the behind the scenes. Last week, you cut something from the podcast, which stopped you looking like an absolute
To
penis.
be fair, I don't listen. I've looked like an absolute tit in this podcast for a year long. I have missaid stuff, misspoken, put myself out there to be fucking crucified. Last week, you had an excellent explanation for 80-20. I came in the middle of like a fucking train right through a building, made it sound like I had no idea. I didn't have any idea what was going on. And I thought, I felt like I derailed everything you'd said. So if you think I'd done that to save my bacon, I done that to make you the point you made come across. And
Basically,
I'll let you know this. Someone said 3 explanations I've had of that 80-20 split, and they still don't have a fucking clue what's going on.
yeah, I'm thinking what we need is on the second live tour, we're going to need a whiteboard. I can do a love, I can do a lovely one on a whiteboard, but it's hard.
Okay.
I've done the best I can do without visual fucking stuff for people to look at.
Okay.
Okay, Adam Valelli says bands that have split up in recent years you're gutted about. Any?
No idea.
No?
Honestly. You know why? Because when I would have thought about that, I was too busy putting together my 3 favourite post rock albums.
Okay, well, I'm going to go Black Peaks and Arcane Roots because they are the two that should have been the biggest fucking bands in the world. And I keep mentioning them, and I really hope that one day they might come back and play at Trees or ATG because they're just fucking amazing. But you know the one really unspoken, the great unspoken band here that no one mentions because you shouldn't really mention them is Neurosis, who are like pure. I don't know if they played Damnation, but they would have been a perfect Arctangent headliner. Um, one of the best post metal bands ever, arguably the best.
Well,
Um,
no, they're not as good as Cutler and Amon Ra, but I know what you mean.
yeah, okay. I mean they're better than Armin Ra. They're definitely better
Whoa!
than Armin Ra. I mean, no one's better than Armin Ra live, but they're better. Neurosis are a significantly better
So what are you
band on
saying,
record
James?
than
What
Armin
are you
Ra.
saying, James? Like, because this is definitely cancelled fucking territory. You better line yourself up nice and easy with this now. What about Neurosis? Tell us more.
Okay. So obviously, because of the horrific stuff that came out, they're no longer a band and they're cancelled. But I don't think does that.
I
I
suppose they
honestly
could
have
come
never
back.
seen
They could come
you've
back
made
with
me
a shit
go.
bag, couldn't they? They could
uh,
they could reform without a shit bag. It was a very singular thing. There was that one guy
Yeah,
who was a dick. I don't think it wasn't a band wide problem as far as I know, for as much as I know. But it's not a conversation that I'm looking to pull the spade out and get involved in. But
no,
I
no.
thought it was one bad egg, and the rest of the band just broke up because he was probably an integral part to the band. I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah. Well, no, it was Scott Kelly, and you can't do Neurosis without Scott Kelly. I don't think. I think it's very hard to imagine. Although you start hearing that Nirvana are about to go back on tour
The Post
without
Malone.
Kurt Cobain, so who fucking knows? But yeah, they were like the band that I tried to book every year. So yeah, it would have been nice if Neurosis hadn't have been had an absolute fucking bad person in them. Okay, we're nearly done. There is I don't want there's a question I really don't want to miss, Gav, which is Pete Wall asks, what would your walkout music be if you were making your UFC debut?
Now, I did give this one some thought, and it was Anonathrix submission is for the week. Now, this works in so many levels. You're just not going to commit to Mogwai Auto Rock, are you? You want to commit pumped up. When I used to run 5Ks, I had this in the playlist, and you always got that wee bit of extra energy. And there's got this bit of building. It's quite industrial electronic, and then it gets to the bit, goes, stops, and goes, die on your knees. And then it just goes fucking wild. I could just imagine me kind of like, yes, die on your knees, get into the cage, getting my cunt kicked in very quickly, and that'd been the end of my UFC fucking career. So, aye, that would be Aaron Athrak. Submission is for the week. What a
Good.
tune! What a tune.
Lovely, lovely, lovely answer. And the second C bomb, I think only the second C bomb of the entire year.
Really?
It's good. And you're first, I think. So yeah.
But you know, like it's not a thing. Like, there's not a thing in
Not,
Scotland.
not, it
Like,
is everywhere else.
in Scotland and Australia, it's not a thing. It's like shit, fucking cunt. It's the exact same. There is no, and also it's a positive. If you're a good cunt, you're a good person. I think I called you that when we first met. You're like, you what? So it's not a thing. I get it. Listening for your sensitive English ears, think that that's not. I'm not having it at all. It's no different from any other profanity, which we should probably cut down a wee bit if we tried. If we're going to get big sponsorship deals in future.
But we're not going to sell out, are we? Okay, look, I think this is a good question to end on our year's anniversary. Rich Lee Davis says, would Gav book a better ATG or would James book a better Damnation and why?
See, it's so subjective, that, isn't it? Because it's like, well,
I
what
don't
makes
think
it?
so.
You don't think so? I mean, the thing is, you're protected a little with the comfort of bands that you don't appreciate. You know what I mean? So you're protected with your Godspeed You Black Emperors and Explosion in the Sky and Mogwais, and you don't have that. Like, you have no right to have that protection. I should be having those bands. I don't run a post rock festival, and you won't even fucking admit yours is a post rock festival. Just pretend otherwise, right? Now, Damnation, yeah, you're such a fucking oddball, though. I mean, like, somebody, you need to go, your Damnation, you need to go back to Jilly's Rock World, because other bands would be the UK debuts for some mental Fange and Sonata and Ireton, which I'm sure somebody's sitting there going, that would be my dream day. I know, but there's a collective 40 tickets. You know what I mean? I'm trying to fill an arena. Whereas I could take over a Tangent and have all the beautiful bands you've got, and then fire in the odd Pig Destroyer and Thou and Anunnathrach and have a nice wee mix it. So, I was going to be pleasant about it, but I'll just be on, my Tangent would be fucking spectacular, and my Damnation is spectacular. So, I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Okay, good. Well, I think we've established that I'm the bigger metal fan. So I felt that I could come and give it the big metal beans. I'd I'd
You're
I'd go
the
Machine Head. I basically would go Machine Head.
you're the bigger metal fan. You're the bigger, in a sense. You're definitely going that weird. What's that great band that we just had that showed up in the beat shots and
Oh, Interama.
Interama? I mean, like, you definitely have a great taste in metal, for sure. To be fair, but aye, it's weird because in some ways, I feel like you drag it in a Roadburn direction because you like so much of that, and then in my other space, you drag it in a Bloodstock direction because you're open to all that, like fucking
Machine Head.
Machine Head, Lamb of God, Arch
I
Enemy.
mean, I don't
Crap.
like
No
I
crap.
don't like Lamb of God or Arch Enemy really. I mean, I would listen to them, but but at the same time, but I feel about them the same way I might feel about You Mate Six, as in maybe I would,
Aye.
yeah,
You would
maybe
bend
it
the
would be
knee,
okay.
mate. You would bend the knee for the ticket sales. I'm like, no, mate. Carcass or death.
Yes, exactly. I would bend the knee for the ticket sales.
Right. Okay. Listen, mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. I am not due to do any ad reads for Westons. I think you would do the next one. However, if anyone has been watching and wondering how my pint glass keeps filling up, it's because I've got this 10-litre box of cider on my desk beside me, and my wife gave me a bowl of ice, which is now melted, which is what I've been filling up with quietly in the distance. This is Rick the Hoose Juice, 7.3%. I am in love with this company. I'm loving it. Like, even if they're like, we don't want Gavin to do the ad reads, we want the James one telling us the type of apple it is and which orchard it came from and the family history. Fine, you can have this one for free. I love this. Is the best delivery of stuff I've had. I have absolutely caned the rhubarb box. Beautiful. There's these bottles of vintage one. I've kept one so I can do whenever we do the next ad read. And then tonight I have this absolute. I'm a cider drinker, right? But it's not like an IPA in the sense that you've got your 74 choices. So you go to the supermarket and you get your Strongbow or your Magners. I don't even like Magners, but you just get it because that's what they're stocking. And I've just been stuck with that. Or you get the odd record, like it's just like too sugary. And then this has entered my life via your brother Rob, who sorted it. Thank you for that, Rob. And I'm all over it. I am all over it. So if you're a cider drinker like me, and those ones are a little bit too bubbly, too sweet, and you just want to enjoy a cider, Weston's, look, they even sent me a glass to drink it. I mean, Weston's, let's just take this somewhere private, okay? You and I, let's talk. Let's talk. You and I, send me more boxes of this stuff. I'll do all your ad reads. We don't hear about James talk about apples, and we'll sell boxes and boxes and stuff. It's pod 10 to get 10% off, which is a little strange because if you go to their website, there's another code there, which seems to be more. If that's still the case, just use the other one and tell them when you get there that we sent you. There's a wee plug for you guys.
Lovely. Oh, everything you just said, you said to me before we started. You were excited about the cider, so it's real. It's a real, real
It is real. And our other little hero, a little weirdo sponsor we've got. This is a picture of him. This has been a very visual-led podcast. This is his piri piri porn, right? So if you're aware of the porn meme, the blonde girl sitting in front of the couch, Lou's done his selfies that with, I take it, jalapenos or chilies behind him. This got opened 2 nights ago. It's half done. It's fucking beautiful. Lemon and herb piri piri. Piper piri piri, he calls it. And we call it piri piri porn in this house because he's a sick wee shit. And brilliant. Thank you for all your support this year as well, Lou. And thank you for the support in the upcoming tour. If he's still got any of these left and it's on tour, make sure you grab a bottle. If you're not coming to the tour, pod 15 from loosebruce.co.uk.
Lovely. Well done.
Mate.
Wow, mate. It's been a trip.
We went again. We did.
We did.
Thanks everyone that's been with us for this year. Thanks to like this mad shit. I mean, Cold Bone's coming back because somebody asked in Kofi. I mean, fucking Nordic Giant's going to be hopefully at Art Tangent anyway because James done it this. It's all the great wee bits for the wee sideshow bits here. To the start of year 2, mate. Let's fucking
yes, mate. See you next week. Let's go.